Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user throwaway AITAH 101525. Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care about my sister's rejection sensitive dysphoria and will be having my wedding the way I want it? I know sometimes it might seem like the answer is obvious, but I am honestly asking for the truth because I'm getting so much pressure from my family that is becoming unbearable now. I, male 30, am newly engaged. My fiancée, female 30, and I have been together for 2 years and we both feel ready for the next step. We don't want a big wedding, we both come from huge families, and we don't want to deal with the cost and headache of planning a huge event. Our plan is to go to City Hall and sign the required papers. We would invite my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my fiancé's father, sister, brother-in-law, and brother, as well as 2 of my friends, since they were the ones who set me and my fiancé up when we were in the armed forces. After City Hall, we would all go out for dinner. We don't want any other wedding stuff or any kind of reception. When my older sister got married 3 years ago, I ended up being thankful I was stationed in another country and wasn't at home. I was in the Air Force at the time. She had a huge expensive wedding and then took an expensive trip to the United States for her honeymoon. This is normal in our family, but watching the wedding on a live stream was enough for me. I was getting a headache when I was hearing about the planning secondhand. My fiancé and I don't want that stress. I thought my family would have a problem with us not having a big wedding or only inviting my parents, sister, and brother-in-law. But my sister got upset because she wanted to be my fiancé's maid of honor. We aren't even having a maid of honor or best man or wedding party at all. Even if we were, my fiancé would want her own sister to be maid of honor, not my sister. My sister also thought she would get a special role in the wedding as sister of the groom, which isn't the thing as far as I know. She wants to have a moment where she walks down the aisle alone before my wife does. I've never seen anything like that at any wedding I've ever gone to. Only the bride or one half of the couple, and sometimes the father, walks down the aisle. For full disclosure, my sister has ADHD, and with that, she also has something called rejection-sensitive dysphoria. She takes rejection really personally, and even though my parents sent her to therapy before, she still takes it hard when she thinks someone has rejected her, even if they haven't really done that. I told her my fiancé and I aren't having wedding parties or a wedding where other people have a special role or moment. She feels rejected, and now my parents, my brother-in-law, and other people in my family are pressuring me to change my mind. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister and everyone else that I don't care if she feels rejected and won't change a thing about the wedding? It gets annoying to have everything revolved around my sister's feelings all the damn time. I don't think it's wrong for me and my fiancé to want our wedding day to be about us, instead of giving my sister the role of maid of honor or groom's sister and letting her be the center of attention like she wants. My parents and my brother-in-law are the worst offenders, and I ended up telling them and everyone else who pressured me that I'm done talking about this and to never bring it up again. Am I the a-hole for this? I just want to have my wedding the way my fiancé and I want it, but my family has never gotten so upset at me about anything else before, so I wonder if I overstepped. No, OP, of course you're not the a-hole. It is your wedding. Now, I'm sorry your sister has rejection-sensitive dysphoria, which, without offending anyone, I've never heard of before, even though I've also been diagnosed with ADHD. But to me, this sounds like your parents did a crappy job raising your sister, and the therapist was apparently no help. Because it sounds like your sister took this rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and with the enabling of your parents, turned it into main character syndrome. Rejection is a part of life, and I get that people feel it in different levels, but that doesn't mean that because some people simply can't handle rejection, that they get to hear and have whatever it is they want. Now, if your sister can't handle not being the center of attention at your wedding and your family is absolutely up in arms about it, then tell them they can't go to the wedding. All of them. It is your and your fiance's wedding, OP. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Alternative Owl 3710 says, not the a-hole. I would tell your parents, sister, and brother-in-law that if they mention it again, then none of them will be attending the small occasion you have planned. You'll just elope and have some random witnesses. That should shut them up. The Roadkill Rapunzel says, Jesus, rejection-sensitive dysphoria is something you have to work on, not something that means everyone has to give in to you to prove that they really care about you. I have ADHD. I sometimes get rejection-sensitive dysphoria. It sucks. It's hard. It also doesn't mean I get to demand to get my way all the time. Not the a-hole. You need to be firm with your sister. It seems like no one else is willing to. Celtic Muse Books says, suggest to brother-in-law and parents that it might be a good time to send your sister back to therapy. Tell your sister and parents that the wedding will happen precisely as planned. You hope that she and her husband will be there and share your special day, but understand if her mental health issue keeps her away and that you love and support her regardless of her choice. Tell your parents that they are actually encouraging her mental illness and that they allowed her to have the wedding she wanted and that you will have the wedding you and your fiancé want and you absolutely won't entertain any discussion about changes. If they don't let it drop, then employ say no, then go. Reiterate that this issue has been decided and you won't discuss it further. Then disengage. If it's text, just don't respond. Phone call, say goodbye and hang up. In person, walk away. Fresh Passion 1184 says, I have RSD. Your sister is trying to weaponize her. There is no wedding party, so there's no maid of honor. There is no wedding party, so there's no sister of the groom. It's not about her. It's that simple. If she remains upset, she needs to work that out in therapy. Ambarella Chutney says, not the a-hole in my opinion. Your sister sounds spoiled and self-involved. Pretty crazy to think she'd be maid of honor for a bride who already has a close relationship with their own sister. I would just tell the family that if they continue to pressure you about this, your entire side of the family will only know of the marriage after it happens, with your friends and in-laws as the only guests. You can say that you hope they'll be there, but that they won't need to if they can't accept the vision you both have for the day. And Dipping My Toes says, not the a-hole. Your sister's diagnosis sounds like a fancy garbage way of saying, I'm a total spoiled brat princess who has to have the whole world about me. She should be given a really serious reality check. You have every right in the world to not care about her feelings in this matter. She doesn't have any right to have any feelings about how your wedding is held. Your parents need to stop enabling the spoiled little biatch and tell her to get over herself. Well, the community agrees Opie is not the a-hole and they suggest that if they can't handle it, to not go to the wedding. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. We got married. We had the wedding we wanted. On Friday afternoon, we went to City Hall, signed the paperwork, and had a very quick ceremony. We invited my wife's dad, her sister and brother-in-law, her brother and his fiancé, and my best friend and his wife. My best friend and his wife were the ones who introduced me to my wife back when my friend, my wife and I were serving in the armed forces. That evening, everyone went out to a nearby restaurant for dinner. Everyone took some photos so we can remember the day, but things were very relaxed. We all wore clothes we already had and we kept everything low-key. My wife and I spent Saturday together and we both have to work today. We decided not to invite my sister, brother-in-law, and parents because of how they were acting. They would simply not stop bringing it up. No matter how many times I told them it wasn't up for discussion, my sister continued to complain or act especially upset, and my parents were being especially controlling about the wedding even though they were not paying for it, and my wife and I are 30-year-old adults. My family actually thought they had a say in the wedding. The last straw was them trying to say my father-in-law was on their side and wanted us to have a big wedding. He never said that. I actually think he was a tiny bit relieved because my wife's sister got married this year and her brother is getting married next year. My father-in-law doesn't try to control the weddings of his kids. He helps out with errands if he needs, but he doesn't try to control or change things. I think he was relieved my wife and I didn't have a big wedding, but he would never say that out loud or comment on his kids having a big or small wedding. My sister and everyone else are upset, but I honestly don't care. It is exhausting to have everything be about my sister all the time. I'm tired of it. I don't think it's unreasonable for a couple to have the wedding they want or to be the center of attention on their wedding day. But my family didn't share that belief, and I didn't want my wedding to be about my sister. I still can't honestly believe my parents and my brother-in-law are entertaining her ideas on this. If we did have wedding parties, my wife would want her own sister as the maid of honor, not my sister. I don't know where my sister got the idea she would get to walk down the aisle alone with flowers before my wife did, or have a special role as sister of the groom. I don't know why her, my parents, and my brother-in-law think they get to control my wedding. My wife and I are adults. We don't live with any of them, and we have jobs and our own money. I put my foot down that my wife and I had the wedding we wanted, and we will not be having any other wedding-related stuff. We are done. My wife and I are ecstatic about being married, and that's all I care about. I appreciate all the support in my last post. OP's edit. I have been told it is common in America, the UK, and other places for the wedding party to walk down the aisle. I hadn't heard of it because, as explained in my post, that isn't done here. Also, even if it was, my sister wouldn't have been part of the wedding party. My wife would have chosen her own sister and her friends, and I would have chosen my friends. It would have looked very strange for my sister to walk down the aisle before my wife did. Willoughby, you guys got married the way you wanted, and that is all that matters. Your sisters, your brothers-in-law, your parents' feelings regarding this whole thing don't truly matter. So here's a big congratulations to you and your wife. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. Now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user BigFriendship8007. Am I the a-hole for not talking to my sister-in-law for cheating on my brother? The title says it all. My sister-in-law emotionally cheated on my brother. They went through a rough patch but eventually got back together. Since I found out brother lived with me during their break, I've completely distanced myself from her. I was and still am disappointed, even after she and my brother made up. She tried reaching out a few times, but I ignored her every time. For my brother's sake, she'll be at my daughter's birthday, but outside of that, I'm choosing not to have any contact with her. This has been hard for me because we used to be very close. I never had a sister growing up, and she was the closest thing I had. What hurt the most is realizing she doesn't take accountability for her actions. Instead, she blames others, acts selfishly, and even cried to me expecting that I'd defend her terrible choice for cheating. Am I the a-hole? Sad face. No, OP, of course you're not the a-hole. The fact that your brother forgave her doesn't mean that everybody else has to forgive her for what she's done. When she cheated on your brother, she lied to everybody. That includes you. She hasn't taken accountability. She just had your brother take her back. So no, OP, you're not the a-hole. You now know the truth about her, and you don't want to have a relationship with her. It's that simple. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Bumblebee True 3817 says, it sounds like you're grieving the relationship you thought you had with her, which makes this harder. But if she's not owning what she did, keeping your distance is reasonable. And OP responded, you have no idea how much I've cried. Double sad face. I held it together at work only to break down in tears on my way home. Even though 2 weeks has passed, I am still so disappointed, hurt, and sad. He may have forgiven her, but I just can't. I've tried, but I can't make sense of it. That subject 830 says, not the a-hole for the way you feel. She betrayed your brother, so you're justified. However, your brother forgave her and decided to move past it, and they're married, so she probably will be in your life for a long time. Are you willing to hold on to that anger long term while the person wronged decided to move past it? Is it worth it? And Opie responds, I believe I'll keep my distance with her still. This comment section made me realize that I don't owe her anything, especially with what I went through when he was staying at mine. Cozy Coretta says, not the a-hole. You're allowed to set boundaries with people who hurt someone you love, even if your brother chose to forgive her. It's valid to be disappointed and to protect yourself from the frustration of her lack of accountability. Being polite for family events is already more than enough. You don't owe her closeness just because you used to have it. And Fanks McWolf says, how has she not taken responsibility for her actions? I'm not asking in her defense, but rather to better understand the situation. And Opie responds, instead of apologizing, she turned it back on him, blaming him for being self-employed rather than having a full-time job, saying she never wanted to get married young and just wanted to enjoy, if you know, you know, and even admitting she isn't officially attached to him and it's his fault. She also blamed her acts on grieving over her dead sister, saying it's been affecting her and that she needed someone to talk to. Honestly, it's so messed up because who in their right mind thinks sending naughty pics and sexting is a part of grieving? Well, the community agrees Opie is not the a-hole, and in her comments, it just solidifies that. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi everyone, it's been about a month since my last post, and I've received a few messages asking for an update. So here it is. The birthday itself was very awkward, but I kept things civil for the sake of my brother and the guests. I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Everything went fine. After the party, she tried reaching out to me through social media, but I didn't respond. About a week later, I saw my brother again for the first time in a while at a mutual friend's house. His wife came to pick him up. His car was at the mechanic, and I said goodbye to him and ignored her completely. It wasn't out of rudeness, it was simply my decision and a boundary I chose to keep. My husband and best friend told me to cut ties as this also deeply affected me. A day or so after, my brother called me to tell me she cried the entire way home because I didn't acknowledge her and that she believed our friendship was ruined forever. That honestly caught me off guard. It felt selfish because she didn't show any sympathy when my brother was breaking things off with her. Yet the moment I stopped acknowledging her, she became an emotional wreck. I feel as if she was more upset about losing me than about what she did to him. Then things escalated. She gave my brother an ultimatum. Cut your sister off to show you respect me. That caused a huge argument between them to a point where her father got involved. Her father took my brother's side. He told her that she needed to ask for my forgiveness and that just because my brother forgave her doesn't mean everyone else has to. Then she planned to come over the same day to apologize and beg for forgiveness without informing us, just knocking on the door and welcome herself in. My brother called to warn me and I told him very clearly that I didn't want her near my home and she should have thought about her consequences before she cheated. She kept insisting, but I told him I wouldn't open the door. Eventually, he convinced her to stay away. I spoke to my best friend about this, and she advised me to remove her from my social media since she kept trying to contact me and it was affecting me. So I did. That apparently led to another breakdown. She cried for almost 24 hours, which caused yet another argument between her and my brother. I tried calling him back to check in, but he didn't answer. Later, he told me she accused him of not respecting her because he was still speaking to me. Ridiculous if you ask me, because if she truly respected him, she wouldn't have cheated. She throws tantrums whenever he tells her to cut off the bad influence guy friends and due to trust issues, yet expects him to cut me off because I set my boundaries with her. But over time, his calls became less frequent. When he does call, it's usually when he's at work, in his car, or somewhere away from home. He can't talk freely because she apparently uses Google Translate when we speak in our mother's tongue and starts arguments afterward based on the one word she picked up. Eventually, he stopped calling altogether to avoid the chaos. I don't fully understand why he's still with her, but I'm trying to stay supportive. His mental health has taken a serious hit as he's emotionally drained, and at this point, my main concern is his well-being. Whatever happens in their relationship, I'll be here for him. He's my brother and I just want him to be okay. Well, OP, hopefully at some point your brother wakes up, but he's made the decision to stay in the relationship with her. And all you can do is what you're doing, just being here for whenever he wants to come out. In the meantime, OP, here's wishing you the best. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user WorkingPatience261. Use slow computer for demanding project. I got voluntold for the job of switching a paper-based corporate learning to computer-based, including web-based training. I did not have a desk or a computer, so I brought in my personal laptop. The boss objected and stated I needed to write a business case for a computer. A week later, I got the absolute minimum system that met the minimum requirements on the box. I started the painful process of converting a PowerPoint into an Adobe Captivate file. When it came to compile the first file, the computer stated it would be 3 hours before it finished. Maybe, so I headed to the break room. The executive director for the project happened to walk in and asked me what I was doing there. I'm staying not frustrated while waiting for the first draft to compile. Should be about another 2 hours, sir. It was 5 hours. When I showed up the next day, my computer had been upgraded to the then top model with dual monitors. The next day, my fancy unit was on the boss's desk, and I had his even older, slower computer. This time, compiling was over 10 hours. Back to the break room. Same executive walks in. I just smile, nod, and go back to my lunch. The next day, I had 2 computers on my desk. The still compiling boss's unit and my previously issued fancy one. The boss was cleaning out his desk, having been sent back to frontline, non-boss work. It felt so good to give that company the boot once the project completed. Well, OP, this was the job they wanted you to do, but then you just needed the tools for it. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.